Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, January 12th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A major decision tonight from San Diego Unified involving its vaccine mandate. It's been at the center of controversy for some time, and now they're postponing it. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has more on what happens now.
The message is clear.
The mandate will not go into effect until further notice, and very unlikely that it would be in place by the beginning of the spring semester on the 24th.
San Diego Unified School Board trustee Richard Barrera tells it like it is, as the district's UC San Diego health vaccination van delivered dozens more doses of Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J shots at Crawford High School today. There is news the district will not be able to meet the start date for its own mandate to require eligible students 16 and up be vaccinated in order to attend classes in person. Late last week, a judge agreed with the Let Them Choose group that claimed the mandate is illegal and infringes on personal freedoms. San Diego Unified is working on an appeal and a request to stop that ruling, but it requires the state legislature to take action in Sacramento.
So if the legislature moved forward and acted, then, our district and other districts around the state would be able to implement a vaccine mandate.
San Diego Unified is the largest school district in the county, so a court ruling on its vaccination mandate could eventually impact hundreds of thousands of students. That's because other districts in the county are watching closely. That includes the county's second largest school district, Sweetwater Union in Chula Vista. That district has now paused its plan to require mandatory vaccinations for student athletes, 16 and up, and others participating in extracurricular activities. Sweetwater officials say they won't require any student to have COVID vaccinations until at least the start of the off-season sports in May. Backed into a legal corner, San Diego Unified's only option at the moment is to simply keep pushing vaccinations. It's an ongoing dilemma for everyone just trying to stay healthy.
A little frustrated that, we can't go back to what we consider a normal society. I miss seeing my friends a lot.
And for those people still not vaccinated, Trustee Barrera says this.
It's not a matter of if you will get COVID, it's when you will get COVID. And because we're testing regularly, if your student is positive for COVID, they're not going to be able to come to school.
No minced words for a very challenging moment. MG Perez, KPBS News.
As hospitalizations for COVID-19 hit new records, there's a shift in tone from health experts. Many are saying virtually everyone will be exposed to COVID, and right now more than 150,000 Americans with COVID are in the hospital, and the U.S. averages nearly 750,000 new cases a day. Here's reporter Mary Maloney.
Most of us will ultimately get Omicron.
The extremely contagious Omicron variant is overwhelming hospitals.
The sudden and steep rise in cases due to Omicron is resulting in unprecedented daily case counts, sickness, absenteeism, and strains on our healthcare system.
Some schools also closed as COVID forces teachers to stay home and quarantine. One Texas school district is asking parents to step in and teach.
We just decided to be innovative. I prefer that instead of desperate. Obviously, we are just extending the offer to parents just to allow them to come in and help us out.
The Biden administration pledges to give schools 10 million more COVID tests a month.
These 10 million additional tests available each month will allow schools to double the volume of testing they were performing in November.
But that covers just a fraction of students in the country. Crucial to turning the pandemic tide in both schools and the community masks.
Any mask is better than no mask.
And vaccines.
One of the best things that we can do is get our children and our teenagers vaccinated.
Virtually everybody is going to wind up getting exposed and likely get infected. But if you're vaccinated and if you're boosted, the chances of you getting sick are very, very low.
Mary Maloney, KPBS News.
With disinformation spreading almost as fast as the virus itself, San Diego County health officials are debunking more COVID myths. That story is coming up on Evening Edition. Governor Gavin Newsom came to San Diego this morning as part of his tour to promote key elements in his budget plan. As KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado shows us, Newsom focused his visit on homelessness.
Governor Gavin Newsom joined a crew and helped clean up a homeless encampment on the shoulder of the freeway in San Diego.
These encampments in California are unacceptable.
Newsom visited the city as part of his budget tour. Today, he called attention to the homeless crisis and his plan to house the unsheltered and clean up the state in the process.
Last year, we put up $50 million, which was novel, for encampment resolution. This year, $500 million was proposed just this week in our budget.
$14 billion of the state's budget will go towards reducing homelessness in the next few years. Now, he's proposing the state allocate $2 billion go directly to cities to tackle the crisis.
But in return, we want to see the plan. And there's 6 specific, transparent metrics that must be met in order to continue to get funding.
The plan also includes funding for 55,000 housing units, more money for mental health and substance abuse outreach.
We have strategies for rapid rehousing, for short-term housing, for treatment on demand, and an unprecedented $3 billion commitment to rebuild our behavioral health system.
We have more and more people who are coming for our services.
Deacon Jim Vargas, the president and CEO of Father Joe's Villages, says he's encouraged by the plan, but worries the end of the pandemic subsidies and the eviction moratorium will make the crisis worse.
So a concern of mine is that the result of that is that we may see an influx of people who are on the street. I don't know one way or the other, but I've been concerned about that. You know, what happens with people who have just been making it?
But he's encouraged by the governor's plan that takes on issues they see plaguing the homeless population they serve.
Now, we need to make sure that when the dollars flow down to the city and the county of San Diego, right, that they're utilized very prudently, that they're utilized very effectively, so that at the end of the day, when we've utilized those dollars and we look back, we will be able to point to a reduction in the number of people who are on the streets, right? That is my hope. That's my prayer.
The governor says he plans to pass conservatorship reform that will also help with homelessness. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Mayor Todd Gloria is delivering his second State of the City speech tonight. As a precaution due to the recent surge, he will do it from a largely empty convention center. The mayor will focus on issues he calls front of mind and will chart a path forward. He'll also update the progress from his first year, but told our news partner 10 News he will not be self-congratulatory.
Folks want to know who's going to pick up the garbage. People want to know who's going to fill the pothole. What are we doing about the thousands of people who live on our streets? And so I think right now, folks' patience is thin, and they're not interested in hearing a multi-hour self-congratulatory speech.
And the speech begins at 6 and is being streamed live on the City TV channel as well as on our website, kpbs.org. The San Diego Fire Rescue Department's arson team is investigating a house fire that partially damaged the home of San Diego County Board of Supervisor Nathan Fletcher. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel has more.
The fire broke out early Wednesday morning at the City Heights home of County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher and his wife, former Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez. The damage was limited to the front of the home and no one was hurt. However, the city's Metro Arson Strike Team is investigating the possibility that the fire was deliberately set. One neighbor who was woken up by the fire department at her door says the couple's political views could be a reason.
I feel bad for them because obviously people are crazy and they're, targeting these people.
I believe that we have
Fletcher and Gonzalez are both prominent Democrats, and Fletcher has been the face of the county's pandemic response. He has strongly advocated for mask and vaccine mandates, and anti-vaccine activists have verbally attacked him during Board of Supervisors meetings. Fletcher says he and Gonzalez were awoken by smoke alarms and saw the front of their house engulfed in flames. They quickly evacuated.
I just want to thank everyone for their thoughts. Around 4 o'clock this morning, our house was engulfed in flames. My family is safe. We are all in a good position. I want to thank in particular the San Diego Police Department, San Diego Fire Department for their very swift response to our home. We're very grateful for their efforts. And ultimately, at the end of the day, all that matters is your family and your loved ones are safe.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
We're learning more about a plane that crashed in El Cajon last month, killing 2 flight nurses and 2 pilots. The National Transportation Safety Board has released its preliminary report on the December 27th crash. Federal investigators say the weather was cloudy and misty when the Learjet struck power lines and crashed into a neighborhood while preparing to land at Gillespie Field. However, the report does not indicate an exact cause of the accident. The Omicron surge has spared no sector of San Diego, including public transit. KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayer says many San Diegans rely on the buses, trolleys, and trains as their main means of transport, but they will soon be working on a reduced schedule.
The San Diego Metropolitan Transit System, commonly known as MTS, is a crucial part of life for many in San Diego. City Heights resident Rosa Bolaños and her family are some of the folks who use the public transit system every day.
We're all the time on the buses because we have to go places, appointments, going to food stamp place, taking them to the doctor because we don't have a car. Especially low-income people don't have a car. We ain't rich like other people.
Mark Olson of MTS says they're seeing lower numbers of riders since the pandemic began, around 65 to 70% of previous ridership. For those that are still riding, he says MTS is facing a staffing shortage. That's going to cause a temporary reduction in service starting at the end of January. He says it will last until at least June of this year.
The reduction in service could be from 15 minutes to every 20 minutes, or every 12 minutes to every 15 minutes. And so we're doing that on some key routes to basically make sure that we can have a dependable schedule for our passengers. So when a bus is planned to come at a specific time, it really will come, and we're not going to have to miss any trips.
Olson added that MTS is taking COVID health protocols seriously for riders and drivers alike. He says they have brought in larger buses for better physical distancing in high rider areas like City Heights. But Bolaños says the public transit system has changed since the pandemic started. She says the buses and trolleys used to be nicer and now sees what she deems are health risks for her family.
In City Heights Transit Center, they're doing their job. But other places with bus transportation, they are not doing their job. They're letting people on the trolley and buses sick, coughing with no mask, basket, stinking up the place. So pretty much, yeah.
She says she's even seen people defecating on the trolley and bus. She also says that the bus drivers try and enforce mask wearing, but struggle to do so as they don't want to approach maskless people and risk catching COVID-19.
They let people with no masks on. They don't have people 6 feet away from us. Yeah. And some bus drivers give us attitude and everything. Okay. It's crazy.
Olson says people who have had negative experiences with MTS can file a complaint through one of their many online options. He added that they are in the midst of a hiring campaign to try and boost staffing levels. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Pandemic price hikes didn't let up in the last month of 2021. In fact, according to a new report showing a key inflation measure, they hit a 39-year high. Chris Nguyen explains what this could mean for your wallet and how the federal government is responding.
Prices for just about everything are rising at the fastest pace in decades.
I cannot keep hybrid vehicles on my lot.
The U.S. Consumer Price Inflation Index rose 7% over the past year before seasonal adjustments. That's the steepest climb in prices since June of 1982, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Housing and gas, as well as used vehicles, were the biggest contributors to the December price hikes.
When customers are coming in, they're expecting full retail price for their pre-owned vehicles, and those are some things that we're having to conquer.
Food costs also went up slightly, the coronavirus pandemic impacting the global supply chain. The central bank now shifting to fight inflation after months of trying to prop up the economy.
If we see inflation persisting at high levels longer than expected, then we will, if we have to raise interest rates more over time, we will.
But even though prices went through the roof last year, they're still nowhere near the historic highs from the 1980s.
Even with Fed rate hikes penciled in, the unemployment rate will continue to decline this year, and we should be back to full employment at the end of the year.
The Biden administration optimistic that inflation will come down in the second half of the year.
We are not sitting on our hands idly by, hoping that these forecasts are right. We're doing everything we can to ensure that's the outcome.
In Washington, Chris Wynn, KPBS News.
Empty shelves at grocery stores are becoming more common. Customers across the country say they're having trouble finding milk and bread, meat, and other essential food items. Grocery stores say worker shortages due to COVID are delaying deliveries. And on top of that, there's less labor in general. The National Grocers Association says many of its members have less than 50% of their normal workforce. Supply chain issues are also still impacting businesses big and small. And as reporter Len Ramirez shows us, shipments that were supposed to arrive before the holidays are just now coming in.
This is all the stock that I have left, barely any stock at all.
Small business owner Darlene Tennis was stung by the supply chain crisis, and it was all because of the small tin containers her Mexican chocolate product comes in.
We make the product here in the USA, but the tin cans are from China and we weren't able to get them.
Tennis runs a Hispanic lifestyle business called Casa Q, and it sells online through her own e-commerce site and on Amazon. She ordered 3 pallets worth of product in August, hoping to get it in time for the holidays. But the shipments arrived after Christmas and are now sitting in a warehouse. On top of everything else, the warehouse can't get her pallets down because 4 forklift drivers are out sick with COVID.
So many companies, stores, businesses that weren't able to get their supplies in time for Christmas, and they lost a lot of sales because they had empty shelves. I mean, you see empty shelves everywhere right now.
It's a lot more work. It's a lot more work to figure out how to make it work.
Sean Parola runs a small gift basket company called All the Buzz. She worked around the shortages at her San Jose shop, but found out just how interconnected we all are with the rest of the world.
Containers usually come from China, jars, boxes that products are in, even down to the corks in a bottle. We hoarded. We just kept bringing in things and decided to take the risk so that our customers would have what they needed.
Casa Q.
Darlene is keeping her business moving ahead, too. All those chocolate mixes she was planning for Christmas will now be marketed in a new way.
Well, it looks like I'm going to have a big chocolate sale for Valentine's Day, and we'll try to move the
Weather emergencies, specifically in the Midwest and Northeast, have also impacted deliveries and restocking.
Our winds are diminishing, but the high surf does continue. And as we take a look at our weather headlines, that flow will start to turn weakly onshore for the next couple of days. With that, we'll see a lot of clouds around, and the cooling will gradually spread inland and offshore. Keeping an eye on an upper low, but it looks like it will stay offshore through the weekend with minimal impacts here. Here's a check on the high surf advisories. They continue along the San Diego County beaches here right through Thursday nights. And as we take a look at our weather tonight, we'll see a cornucopia of cloud cover, mostly cloudy. Our low 50 degrees. As we check out other locales, Oceanside's down to 42, Borrego Springs 48, and Mount Laguna 45, El Cajon 51 degrees. How's our weather look for Thursday? Well, it looks pretty tranquil here. And we'll see light winds, flows turning weakly onshore. We'll still see some clouds and some sunshine in the area. Temperatures hovering right around 70 in Oceanside, San Diego 72, Ramona 70, and Mount Laguna 53. So there'll be plenty of clouds around. It does look like perhaps a little bit of brightening for some. Here's the upper low. It's sitting its way offshore here, sitting and spinning. There it is, and here we are. And our weather looks pretty tranquil right through Saturday. So let's check the extended forecast out for you. And as we take a look at the coast, we'll see Partly sunny to mostly cloudy skies next couple of days. A lot of clouds around. Temperatures cooling off just a little bit, but they're still above average into the weekend. Inland sections cooling off just a little bit. Plenty of clouds around, but above average temperatures through the weekend here. In the mountains, we're looking at generally dry, some gusty winds will be with us again. Start to see some stiff northeasterly winds over the weekend. And then in the desert, temperatures will be mild, partly sunny to mostly sunny skies. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
County leaders say it's not just human contact or a failure to vaccinate that is fueling the ongoing pandemic. It's also more misinformation. Here's KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman on what they're doing about it.
It's just not true. It's not true.
Doctors from across San Diego, including the county's own chief medical officer, Dr. Eric McDonald, are still working to correct misinformation that's heard at County Board of Supervisors meetings.
There were a couple of comments made by the public at the board meeting concerning children. The first was that since no child under 10 has died in San Diego from COVID, parents should not get their children vaccinated. I think it's worth saying that no child should die of a vaccine-preventable disease.
Dr. John Bradley with Rady Children's Hospital says some kids are getting severely sick and they are spreading the virus.
To prevent spread in the community so we can finally get this pandemic under control, it's important to immunize kids.
McDonald now estimates that 1 in 20 San Diegans currently have COVID-19.
Transmission in San Diego right now as we speak is the highest it's ever been.
Dr. Christian Ramers with Family Health Centers of San Diego says with so much virus in the community right now, people need to take precautions.
If 5% of people in the county at one time are infectious, you go to a grocery store with 40, 50 people in it, that's a lot of people that are, whether they know it or not, able to spread the disease. So it's just a very, very high risk time at this point.
Raymer shared data from the United Kingdom highlighting why people should consider booster shots,
resulting in basically a vaccine efficacy for the Omicron variant with the 3 doses of about 88%, protecting against hospitalization, whereas just 2 doses is only 52%.
County supervisors declared COVID-19 misinformation a public health crisis last year. There's more information, including fact checks of common misinformation, available on the county's coronavirus website. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The physical impact of COVID has devastated hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S., but there's also been a more subtle impact, and that is mental health. And that's been showing up in kids as they navigate their way back to in-person learning. Elizabeth Cohen has details.
Like other families, the Kitleys in Chicago were thrilled when last fall their 4 children could finally go back to school. But halfway through the school year, there have been bumps in the road, leaving home, going back to school.
That transition back to school has been difficult, mostly for my youngest child, who felt this sense of safety and security from the age of 7 until 8.5, and then needing to go back to school.
So it sounds like your daughter got used to having the comfort of having mom and dad around all the time.
Absolutely. And then is expected to just go back to school from 0 to 100. There wasn't a gradual transition.
Kitley, a therapist herself, sees the tension in her patients.
They are feeling increased anxiety around just how to be and communicate with people and build friendships and being able to feel comfortable in their environment.
Have you seen children hit crisis points?
Low self-esteem and low confidence and feeling depressed, and as a coping mechanism, turning to eating disorder behavior or cutting behavior, and really not being able to manage the intensity of being back in a school environment.
Last month, the U.S. Surgeon General issued this 53-page advisory outlining how the pandemic has had an unprecedented negative impact on the mental health of children. One global study finding symptoms of youth depression and anxiety doubled.
I'm so concerned about our children because there is an epidemic, if you will, of mental health challenges that they've been facing.
Kitley says an empowerment group for girls that she started has helped. See you later. Atlanta area counselor Tisha Stovall-Dula says when children feel overwhelmed by the transition back to school, she offers them a safe place.
They'll often come to my office just to get a break.
from the noise. And I was very surprised by that they needed to come and get a break from the noise.
Her advice to parents, remember that if your children seem immature for their age, there's a reason. They missed out on more than a year of development with their peers.
I mean, my 12-year-olds, they still act so young. They're more like elementary school kids.
Missing a year to a year and a half of social interaction for a middle school student, that's a lot.
It was a lot.
And be patient with your child as they transition from one way of life to another.
Their world was turned upside down. As adults, we are able to bounce back quicker, usually faster. But for them, you know, it's going to take a little more time.
December might be for Christmas cookies, but the Girl Scout cookie season is now upon us. You can get your classic favorites like the Thin Mints and the Samoas, my personal favorite, the Tagalongs. But new this year are the so-called Adventurefuls. The Girl Scouts website describes these cookies as an indulgent brownie-inspired cookie with caramel-flavored cream and a hint of salt. You can get the cookies now through April. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.